Hey guys, it's Paul from Team APS. The other day I finally got my hands on 3 copies of this Shaddoll structure deck. So I decided that I would build one of those $30 3x structure deck videos that everybody loves to see so much. Yeah, this is one of the better ones. It's a really good structure deck, lots of good reprints, a very good theme. As you guys know, Shaddoll Invoke is like a popular meta deck right now, but this is just something that you could build if you happen to pick up 3 copies of it, which again, I do recommend. So we'll hop into this. Shaddolls are a pretty strong archetype on their own. They sometimes can benefit from having other archetypes with them, and I'll highlight a few of the struggles that this deck can have, but yeah, I didn't sleeve it because I felt like it's more authentic this way or something. Okay, so triple Shaddoll Squamata. This has been pretty much just a staple of Shaddolls forever, right? Whenever it gets sent, it lets you send another Shaddoll monster from your deck to the graveyard. So effectively, Foolish Burial or any other mathematician, Armageddon Knight, sending this lets you send another Shaddoll, and that means you now have like 2 Shaddolls monsters in the grave, in play, everything like that. That's really good. And like all the Shaddolls, it does have a flip effect that just lets it pop a monster in the field. This doesn't come up very often because you shouldn't really be like having Shaddolls getting like flipped up and down, setting them a lot, not too often, but yeah, he is the staple. He, she, it. 2 Shaddoll Beasts, so this is just your draw power. If you flip it up, you can draw 2 and discard 1, but otherwise you just draw 1 when it gets sent to the grave by a card effect. I should probably mention this now if you're new to Shaddolls or anything. They have to be sent to the graveyard by a card effect, which means that you can't pitch them as a cost for something that will not work. So if you pitch them as a cost for something like Twin Twisters, for instance, that won't actually work for their effects. So just keep that in mind. All right, next is 2 Shaddoll Hedgehog. So this is one of my very favorites. Its flip effect lets you add a Shaddoll spell or trap from your deck to your hand, but otherwise, if you just send it, you can add any Shaddoll monster from your deck to your hand. So it gives you access to pretty much anything in your deck. Normally though, I find that Squamata is like kind of more preferred just because you'll be actually getting Shaddoll effects when this gets sent as opposed to this just getting a Shaddoll in your hand. But if you need a Shaddoll in your hand to just use for something, it's as good as special summoning it to the field if it's in your hand, if your plan is to use like Shaddoll Fusion, for instance, or El Shaddoll Fusion. So just a thing to keep in mind, and other than that, if you ever do resolve its flip effect, it's actually one of the better ones, so that's nice. Stop coughing. So, 2 Shaddoll Falco. This is, interestingly enough, I find one of the cards that isn't as good as it probably was in its prime, partly because the structure deck doesn't actually give you doesn't give you synchro monsters, so tuners are not the best thing to have. But anyways, when it's flipped face up, you can target a Shaddoll in your grave, except for another copy of itself, and summon it in face down defense, which is nice. And if it gets sent to the grave, it summons itself. So if you do need a Shaddoll monster to just hit the field really quickly, this is the one that you want. But I find that it's not like entirely necessary. I think that there are just other Shaddolls that advance strategies a little bit better, but of course it's still fine. And the reason why we're able to run like 2 copies of a lot of these Shaddolls instead of 3 is just because we have 3 Squamata. So Squamata again gives us access to our other Shaddolls. Only 1 copy of Shaddoll Dragon, so its flip effect lets you bounce an opponent's card, and then if it's sent, you can destroy a spell or trap. So this is strictly removal, and that's why I'm really only running 1. It's not like a strategy card. If you do want, though, it's got 1900 attack, and I actually find that to be rather useful because, most of these Shaddoll monsters are very weak. Squamata's got 1800 attack, so it's not really, you're not going to be doing summoning and swinging with this deck. There are situations where this can do it. All right, next is Shaddoll Windy. If someone can explain to me like the meanings of these new Shaddoll naming styles, I'd love that. You can leave that in the comments. But anyways, Shaddoll Windy is quite nice, and it's only got one sort of key weakness, I guess I'd say. But anyways, its flip effect lets you summon a Shaddoll monster from your deck, and you can summon it face up or face down, which I think is wonderful. It's actually a really great effect. If it's just sent though, then that just allows you to special summon a Shaddoll monster as well. So I think that all in all, it's good. It's just that it's wind. If it was dark, I think that it would be a little bit better, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. It can still the fact that it's wind can help with making that new fusion monster, but If it was dark, I think it would be a little bit better. And I'm not running Aerial because I didn't find that this deck really banishes very much stuff, so that's the reason why. Aerial's the water one. Alright, so next we've got Triple Mathematician. This sends your Shaddolls to the graveyard and triggers their effects. If it dies in battle, you can draw a card. Armageddon Knight does the same thing. And then we've got some cards that we want to send, like Pero Cerberus, Perform Age Trick Clown, and Felis Lightsworn Archer. So Trick Clown's probably the most well-known of these. When it goes to the grave, you can just have it, get summoned back, and you'll take 1,000 damage. Felis when it gets into the grave, it can summon itself, but it does have to get sent to the graveyard by a monster effect. Keep that in mind. So like Foolish Burial actually won't work for it. But anyways, you contribute it and then send 3 cards from the top of your deck to the grave and pop a card. That's cool. This actually isn't a cost to send those 3 cards. This could trigger Shaddoll effects. This can pop a card on the field if you take damage while it's in your grave. So they each have some nice little applications, but this is probably the most important one. So now we have some boss monsters. Alright, it's 2020, so some people do have 2 dads, and this is actually one of the better things to have in this deck in particular, because, well, I mean, you don't get access to really powerful link monsters and stuff, so a monster that you can just summon straight from your hand that can just pop things and have 2800 attack is quite nice. We also have Blackluster Soldier. It's kind of the same job. We've got 2 light monsters in this main deck, and then we've got Shaddoll Construct, which will be a light monster once it hits the grave. So you've got more than enough ways to get some light monsters out. Both these boss monsters are quite threatening when they show up unexpectedly. So yeah, that's it for the monsters. It's quite a lot of monsters, but it's one of those decks where that's okay. Okay, so spells. Triple Shaddoll Fusion. I'm surprised that they printed the super in here, but I'm kind of glad that they did. So this is, you know what Shaddoll Fusion does, it fuses. But also if your opponent has a monster that they summon from the extra deck, then you can use things in your deck as materials, which is ridiculously strong, so keep that in mind. Can also get hit by Ash Blossom no matter what. Unfortunate ruling about that, but anyways, L Fusion. This is similar to Shaddoll Fusion minus the deck effect, but in exchange you get a quick play, which is cool. That means you can deal like a lot of extra damage out of nowhere. It's a nice thing to have. And then Neff Shaddoll Fusion. So you actually can equip it to a Shaddoll monster and change its attribute, and that'll allow you to get some of your more creative fusion monsters out. And you can just use that Shaddoll monster as like any attribute you want. So that's pretty cool. And it of course can activate the fusion effect as well. I'm running 2 Super Polymerization. I was gonna try out 3, but I think that 2 is a little bit better because you don't always have loads and loads of hand advantage in this deck, and discarding cards for it, that won't trigger Shaddoll. It's a cost. So yeah, but of course you can take anything that your opponent has. You've got fusions of all attributes, so it's quite good. Triple Allure Darkness for the draw power. Foolish Burial, it's just another Armageddon Knight type of card, and that's all for the spells. Anyway, for traps we have Triple Rest Shaddoll Incarnation. So this is like a Call of the Haunted for them. It's quite nice. You want to be able to get your Shaddolls from the graveyard, and you can banish it and a Shaddoll monster to change a Shaddoll monster's position. So either flip it up into attack position or flip it down to defense position. So this is a way that you can actually utilize some of the better flip effects like Windy and Hedgehog. Those are some of the ones that you'd like to use. It's a pretty good card. I wish it had like a cool defensive effect, but I guess you could call that a defensive effect. I don't know. And finally, a Shaddoll Core, which you can summon as whatever attribute you want it to be, and then if it gets sent to the graveyard, you can get back a Shaddoll Fusion or something like that. It's quite nice. Okay, so the extra deck, lots of fusions in here, and they only give you the one Shaddoll Link monster that we'll get to, but these are great fusions. So let's just say that Construct is a queen. This art is incredible. I love it. She looks fantastic, and she's pretty busted. So if she battles a monster that was special summoned, she just destroys it. That's cool. When she's summoned, you can send a Shaddoll from your deck to the grave, and a Shaddoll card actually, so it can be anything, but usually it's going to be a monster. And then when she leaves the field, you get a Shaddoll spell or trap back to your hand. It's nuts, especially in decks that, when you start adding extra components to this deck, like if you, have a bit of a budget to go to, you can make some really nutty combos. For instance, if you wanted to summon this with Shaddoll Fusion and your opponent maybe had like a monster they'd summoned from the extra deck, you could send one of your Shadolls from the deck and like a Trick Clown from the deck, and then like she's sending something, the Shaddoll gets its effect, Trick Clown gets its effect, everything's happening, everyone's having fun, she's sending her dark, evil whatever these are, strings all over the place. Everyone's having a good time. Okay, next is El Shaddoll Winda. So this one's probably the most popular general use Shaddoll fusion. While it's on the field, your opponent can only summon, well, or each player, but it's obviously harder on your opponent. You can only summon one time, and also this can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So no Lightning Storm, no Raigeki, no Dark Hole, none of that stuff. And like Construct, when it dies, you get back a card. It's just a Shaddoll and a Dark monster, so any two Shaddolls will always work, except for Wendy. That's why I don't like her so much. Anyway, the new one, El Shaddoll Al Capone, or at least as I like to call it. So this one's pretty good. When you summon it, it can negate a card on the field, and then also when it goes to the grave, you can get a Shaddoll card from your deck or graveyard back to your hand, which is quite nice. It just takes two Shaddolls with different attributes, so that's where things like Shaddoll Core and Nef Shaddoll Fusion come especially in handy. So pretty cool. Tusheka takes a Shaddoll and an Earth. This is one of the better ones. It's got 3,000 defense. I guess taking towers was a good thing. And yeah, she can actually stop your opponent's monster effects and send the Shaddoll from your hand to the grave because it's not a cost, and it'll trigger the Shaddoll, and like all the others, when it dies, you get back a card. Wonderful. Okay, Grista, Anoyatilis, and the really awful Wendigo. These just come up when you're using super polymerization for the most part. That's kind of it. This one can stop summons, but I don't like that it's not very strong. This one can prevent your opponent from summoning monsters from their hand or grave with spells, so like no Monster Reborn, no ritual summons. And I don't even remember what she does, but it's not very good. I'm just running it because you have to. Okay, and then finally the Link monster. That's not El Shaddoll Construct, it's just Shaddoll Construct. So she can do a fusion summon just with her own effect, and she could use herself. And you would probably want to do that because, as you can see, her arrows point sideways. So summoning her in your extra monster zone does not actually give you any additional arrows. What you want to do is use her and make one of your other fusions, namely Construct, because she's light, and you just used her and another Shaddoll. And then on the next turn, because you can't use her other effect in the same turn, thanks Konami, you can then bring her back by sending a Shaddoll from your hand or field to the grave, and then when she comes back, she'll be in a main monster zone, and she's pointing sideways, so now you get 2 arrows. Why they couldn't just give her like Mrs. Radiant arrows, I don't know, don't ask me. Alright, that's the deck profile. So all in all, Shaddolls are a lot of fun. This is definitely a great product to pick up. I didn't include it in the deck, but like there's a lot of really great reprints in there. And in fact, if you wanted to build a side deck, I actually think it's one of the few structure decks where you even get enough to build a side. It comes with like Twin Twisters, Unending Nightmare, Lost Wind, those types of cards. So yeah, all in all, great product. Good job, Konami. Pick this up. Hopefully this was helpful. See you guys in the next one. Pass turn.